This DYM podcast is brought to you by APU. Azusa Pacific Seminary offers programs in youth ministry, pastoral studies, divinity, ministry, theological studies, and transformational urban leadership, helping men and women transform the world with Christ. Visit apu.edu/seminary to learn more.
Ready? 3. Ellie, you ready?
Yep.
Yeah.
2. John, you ready? 1. Hey! Hey, everybody. This is Download Youth Ministry Podcast, episode 299.
Yes, it is. 299.
And here's the deal. My name is Doug Fields, and
Hi, Doug.
within reach is my friend Josh Griffin.
Hello, Doug. How are you?
Co-founder of Download Youth Ministry.
First ever,
The beginner
299 shows.
We were at the
original.
This actually is our 300th show, if you think about it, because we had double
episode
zero.
That's right.
Yeah, we
Hey,
had.
congratulations, Doug.
Thank you, buddy.
You deserve it. You did a great job.
The rest of these people are just kind of fill-ins.
Yeah, tag along. It's
Yeah.
great to have you here
We
too.
actually aren't.
Doug and Josh show.
But
I'm really.
we call our second teamer right over here is Jason Carson, who filled in for the original founder Matt McGill,
Yes.
Yep.
who actually
Good guy.
R.I.P.
went to be with the Lord.
Oh my God. I said R.I.P. and then you made the joke. Now it seems like you really.
Services will be held
I don't know
this
that the Lord is
Saturday.
in Pismo Beach. I don't think that's
No,
true.
anyway,
He's not even there.
he's not here. And then we have the two beautiful ladies. We have Hillary McCullough and Allison Hibbert. Hillary is a junior high pastor at Mariners Church in Orange County. Allison runs much of the things related to Download Youth Ministry,
Yes, she does.
but has been on a church staff in youth ministry, in worship, in missions, in admin.
So many
She can do it
Yeah.
all.
She does it all.
Nothing.
I
She
have
can do
had
it. And a long-term volunteer youth worker.
Yeah.
Whose
Still is.
group are they
is.
seniors?
Didn't they just graduate?
They just graduated
Okay,
in June, so
congratulations.
Are you going to ante up for another round?
Oh yeah, I'll join.
Wow.
I just don't know that I'll start with freshmen. I may jump in
Jump in
with
with
like
seniors again.
juniors, seniors.
Yeah.
I don't know that I can go from graduating seniors to brand new freshmen.
No,
That
I
is
get
a
it.
huge
I
jump.
get it. And
But
Ways around.
yeah, I mean, I
Fun.
can't imagine a season of my life that I don't have a student ministry small group. So I'm in.
yeah, that's great. That's great. Well,
great
it's great
place to be
to,
a volunteer.
here's the deal. We're now doing two short, for us, we do two shorter shows on the
Yeah.
same day.
Yeah.
And we just decided, because we thought Hillary might have her baby and we could only have her for one show.
Yeah.
She didn't.
She didn't.
She did
Crisis
not.
averted.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The last 10 minutes, she did not go into labor.
Yeah, and if you listen to show 298, you'll know that Jason called her Kimberly, but we're not going to talk about that on this show.
Awkward.
So
But-
yeah,
Just one more dig. Just
Yeah.
one final dig
Yeah.
at Jason.
senior pastors.
Hey,
Yeah, love it.
thanks,
He knows a
Bob.
lot of people.
Hey, probably what all you guys are thinking is, doesn't this show have sponsors? And really,
I
the
was
answer
wondering.
is yes.
Yes, you do.
Yeah.
Our primary sponsor is Orange,
Orange,
and orangetour.org. That's orangetour.org for information about a tour stop near you. And by the time this podcast plays, I will have already been with Orange in Seattle, so I know we had a good time.
Wasn't it fun? Oh, my goodness.
So good.
Now, Josh and I are going to be at the Orange Tour
yeah.
in Orange County,
Yeah, real soon.
September 20th and 21st, Lancaster,
Like in 3 days, right?
Pennsylvania, in the 27th of September.
We'll be there. Both of us will be there. That'll be fun.
That will be fun. We should go out early and go to something.
In Lancaster?
Amish buffet.
I like that.
Yes.
I'm interested.
The
Yeah.
Hershey Factory.
Philadelphia Eagles.
Cheesesteaks and the Liberty Bell?
That's what you need to
There
do.
you
The Electric Factory.
That's where you run the stairs like in Rocky?
Yeah.
Rocky.
Okay,
Yeah.
I would say
That's
we would
there.
also visit the United States
Oh, yeah.
Treasury and mint a penny or two.
And the whole time you
Lancaster-
could think Nicolas Cage stood right here in National Treasure.
Yes.
Guys, quick update. Hillary's baby still in there.
And And Josh
Hasn't come
Griffin's
out yet.
still eating a purple popsicle.
Delicious.
Anyway, our
It's
sponsors
Lancaster
are
close to
the
Philadelphia.
Orange Tour.
That's what we need to know.
Go to the orangetour.org to get more information.
Don't miss
and
it.
if you want great student leadership resources, you go to
Leadertracks.
Yes, we
.org.
do. They're so
and you
good.
actually should also become a member at DYM because every month you get something from Leadertracks as part of
Such great
the
stuff.
membership.
Well, if you go to
YM360, they're not
Leadertracks-
involved in our membership because
No.
they're
Moguls.
they're printing their own
They don't
money.
need to. Oh my
They're printing their own money. They are the mint. And they're
use
printing
ministry
incredible
resources
resources. Do you use YM360 at Mariners?
We,
Have you used some of their stuff before?
yeah, I think so.
Could you name one product?
Wow.
No,
that-
but now I feel like a jerk.
Well, let me ask you this: Have you?
I use Leadertracks in Orange and DYM.
Okay, well,
Okay, now
you're
we're
So
talking.
ask me about those
3
things.
out of 4.
Yeah.
Have you ever heard of Azusa Pacific University?
I have.
Okay.
Yes, I'm on board with that.
Okay, so YM360.
Yeah, here you
Yeah.
go. Sell
Have
it.
you heard of YM360
Yeah,
before?
I think I get their newsletter in my email.
Yeah. That's not helpful.
I know.
Yeah, no, that's okay.
Come on, ask me something else.
YM360. Here's the deal. They
Yeah.
probably create some of the best curriculum.
Yeah, it's the
You know.
gold standard.
Well, I don't know about that.
YM360?
I'd say
I just want to say gold.
because they juggle gold bars
just-
over there.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah.
Oh, these are heavier
they
than they
do.
look.
They do really good. Josh and I
This is so
just
annoying.
Just doing a quick scan
Let me
from
just
one of
get
her
rid of a
emails
couple
real
because
fast
they're
to
too
see if
heavy.
they mentioned something.
yeah.
Just
no, I'm
hoping.
looking that
They
up.
used to send us stuff to hold up, books to hold up and stuff
Yeah.
like that.
They don't really do that
Leadertracks
anymore.
did that as well. I don't know if they're low on inventory
that.
or they forgot our address or something. Anyway, those are our sponsors. We're
Nope.
very, very thankful. Hey, here's the deal, Hillary. We are not only are we an award-winning podcast, Allison, before your time when you were on staff. at
What
Duke.
awards have you won? I'd love to hear
In
more
the
about
first
this.
year of our show, so 10 years ago, we won Collide Magazine's like podcast you must listen to. And I love
Oh, so good.
Very nice. Is that the one he's on the cover of?
No,
no,
that's-
that's youth
that's
worker.
different. You have a copy of that?
I just saw it. He does. He does have it.
Funny you should ask.
Yeah.
Josh.
That
Youth
is
worker.
unbelievable.
That's such a good picture.
There's
Yes.
so much Photoshop in
I
there.
was going to
It's
say.
crazy.
Is there
It
really?
came
Were
out
you
the
like,
week you
oh, come on.
retired.
a little bit.
Whose neck is that?
Hey, my necks are fine. Thank you very much.
So, anyway, we won an award, but here's the other thing that you need to know is we are also we're an international podcast.
Absolutely.
We get questions sent to podcast at downloadyouthministry.com. This one's from Glasgow, Scotland.
Wow. Can you do a Scottish accent for us real fast?
Glasnost?
What's the penguin doing on the telly? Standing. Oh, I can see that. But how to get there? Hillary,
Blimey.
I noticed.
I love it.
I noticed you went on ym360.com.
I did.
Do you want to say a couple of their products?
Sure. Next
This is quite the pitch, Doug.
is perfect for your Disciple Now weekend. Oh, yes, I get their stuff. Because I only know what that is.
Yeah.
The D Now. Yeah, that's it.
Well, we have that on Download Youth Ministry too.
Yeah.
Something else.
See, that's why I knew.
Leadertracks does some D-Now stuff too.
They have a student book called Next.
That's a good
They
one.
have T-shirts, follow-up journals, events. Yep.
Camps. Like I said, they're
What is
juggling
their
gold
camp
bars.
called? Do you remember?
Generate.
Yeah.
That's the name of their camp.
They're coming
Generate.
out. They're coming out west.
Coming out west. Join us.
That's
Is that
great.
Clyde?
here we are.
Is that their camp?
Shh, quiet, kids.
I'm sorry.
Here we go. Ian here from Glasgow, Scotland. Used to listen to podcasts back in the old days.
Used to?
Glad to be back again as our youth ministry went from 4 kids to 0 for several years, and then we went from 2 to 6 last month.
That's awesome.
I promptly became a gold member. Upon this development, I'm looking forward to putting on a full program for the teens.
Sounds lovely.
Yeah. Did
you
you
guys-
email
Made it sound
Delilah?
so
Is that
depressing.
Do you guys
Love
not
songs on the
know?
coast?
What? is happening.
There was an accent.
How
I
long
was
is
sitting
Steele's
here
going to go
eating a
with this?
popsicle, and I don't know what happened.
I thought we had a rule that whenever we read an international email that everybody has to be really
Oh
quiet.
yeah, so here we go. We're going to read
NPR.
this question. Here we go.
Respect for
I
Glasgow.
think Hillary just had her baby.
Did.
I did, and it's a boy.
I'm about to.
For a year, the youth ministry was made up of 2 kids, a girl and a boy. The boy was the son of the church elders. He frequently skips church, as do his parents, leaving just the girl, who I obviously couldn't minister to alone. I made attempts to set up meetings difficult with this kid, and the problem was compounded as I had other responsibilities within the church that often made it impossible to set up a meeting during service times, because I'm the sound guy too. I get the feeling the elders took my inability to offer their son a consistent program personally, as they won't support the now very full programming lineup, making a couple of quote-unquote sly digs in text, and has been sending him to other youth groups and youth events that we didn't know were on.
Brutal. Hate that.
All of this would be fine except their son is the linchpin of the group. If he doesn't attend, none of the others want to. So what do I do when the popular kid's parents won't support the ministry? Or what do I do when the eldership doesn't support the ministry? Or what do I do when the popular kid doesn't support the ministry? Anyway, much loves and haggis from your Scottish fan.
Haggis. Isn't that like a sausage or something? Or-
I think it's like,
That's what I meant.
Yeah, it's a
yeah, I was going to say it's something,
delicacy.
it's grosser than, yeah.
Yeah, all right, back to
Okay,
normal.
so-
Back to
Here we go.
American.
No,
Whew,
well,
we're back. All
yeah.
right.
I'd like to answer this first, if I may.
Please do, Jason.
That lasted like 2 seconds.
Youth ministry that doesn't support is not supported by the church,
Or elders.
and the popular kid not showing up.
Yeah, is it a
matters.
perception thing? Has he had a conversation with the elder board on this?
Doesn't sound like it.
Doesn't-
Not based on. But you know, people from Scotland don't communicate clearly, so we don't have all
Or very loud.
Very softly.
we don't
though.
have all the details
Yeah.
in this letter.
It's their accent.
Well, there's
Penguin on the telly probably got involved.
there's very few worse feelings than being unsupported by your leadership.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
That is a gut wrenching, punch you, not fun place to be. So I would start immediately with a tough conversation with the people
Yeah.
that are over you. Because if you're truly unsupported, they don't like what you're doing, you're not a good fit, whatever the hostile environment they're now creating for you, that just stinks as a youth worker. So have that tough conversation, see where you stand, see where what you're creating and what they hope you create are not matching up, and make some adjustments. And or if you have to, I suppose you have to consider leaving. You got to have that conversation. I'm sick hearing about it. That is painful. Ugh.
Well, the sly digs thing, that I think
Yes.
being able to address that and go, hey, it sounds like you have a problem with what we're doing. Is there something we can do to talk about this? Or
right.
just so that doesn't keep happening. And it could be a perception thing where they're not really that upset. I mean, there's other things going on, but where they would go, no, I don't know, we're just doing this. But I think addressing that head on is going to be really important.
Not saying that's going to be easy. 'Cause it's
Yeah,
not.
that sounds terrible.
Yeah.
Well, I would also say that if so much resides on this popular kid's involvement, you don't have to disciple kids at the program time. You can meet at other times, and I would try to find other times where I befriend the kid and get to know the kid, and help the kid disciple him, whatever. But if you only have 1 or 2 kids, I can understand why a teenager would want to go to another church down the street, especially if my parents aren't, encouraging me to be a part of that ministry.
And maybe when you take him out in those off times, to challenge him to step up.
I like that.
To lead those other kids and say, hey, man, I need you.
Once the relationship.
Give him vision
Yeah.
for what he could be, how God could use him and what he could become in the group.
Well,
Yeah.
and I would say on the other side of that, I wonder if there's a way to present a leadership opportunity to those other 5 kids to give them some way to be involved and speak into what happens in the events and the services so that they're not reliant on the presence
popular
of that cool popular kid. That they all feel ownership and buy-in to the people and programs aside from him.
You have to be so careful not to build your ministry on the popular kids or depend on the popular kids, I guess. That is a really dangerous place to be, I feel like.
That's a good point.
Yeah. Oh, they're fickle too.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Tricky.
Well, let's keep in the same genre of church troubles. And by the way, Ian from
Church Trouble Show.
Ian from Glasgow, Scotland. I'd like to say, please continue to write in. Spread the news somewhere over there in the Europe land. We like to say.
I think it's Iowa, isn't Glasnost in Iowa?
But maybe he can speak up a
over
little
by-
next time.
I'm going to print a world map.
Hey,
and
and
we're all
I'll just
gonna
throw
say-
know.
I'll just throw out. That's
At
a good
least
idea.
United States.
I'll throw out one other thing.
What's the penguin?
Oh my.
Thanks for loving those kids. They need
Yeah.
you. You don't
Yeah.
know who's in your youth group. You don't know who that person's going to grow
Yep.
up to be. If you have 1, 2, 6, who cares? You're doing great youth ministry. Love those stinking kids.
Yeah. And you're a sound guy.
And you're a sound guy. That's
Yeah,
awesome.
sound guy. So how sharp can you be?
Oh,
That was just for Elliot. That was
Elliot
just for
does,
Elliot.
or yeah, Elliot does our sounds sometimes.
Okay. All right.
And all of a sudden, Doug's mic muted.
Weird. There's like a blurry thing
Sound
over
guy.
this area.
Revenge of the sound guy. Thank you,
My
Elliot.
nephew Elliot is very, very
He's a
rebellious.
very good sound guy.
Very
Rebellious.
rebellious. Yeah.
He
His
is
parents had a lot of problem with him growing up.
I will say this: he's the most talkative producer we've ever had. Almost 300 shows.
Yeah.
Very talkative producer.
Yeah.
I like that.
I actually
smart.
last show I thought we ought to give him a head mic because
my
when he
goodness.
does say things, it's pretty funny.
They are.
Yes.
Elliot's funny.
To speak up at one point last show, but didn't.
Oh,
See,
right.
you need one of those things.
Yeah, wait
Yeah.
till the 400th show.
We'll give you a little light,
Wait a
and you can
sec.
just flash the light when you have something
There's
to say.
something to say.
Hillary's kid will be like 9 years old.
They'll be like, how come Elliot never gets to say anything?
Because he's a
I know,
he's a
son.
sound guy, son.
Set your dreams high.
Goodness.
Next,
That's right. All right.
Glasnost.
All right, John, try not to smile. That's our camera guy.
Gosh.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
He has
Man.
such a great smile, but he just doesn't use it
I
very
think he's
often.
from Scotland.
Yeah.
There's a penguin on
Please don't say my name. First off, have tremendous love and respect for all of you. Thank you for being a constant encouragement. I'm writing because I would love to hear how you would handle when is the time to leave, because leadership keeps making what you feel digs or dents in your leadership abilities and ministry, and how much can you take before moving on? I want to remain faithful and don't want to be a 5-year-old and throwing a temper tantrum because I'm not getting my way, but when is enough enough? Some background. I was in charge of our next gen, junior high through college ministry, and they hired someone to be the family pastor role that I'm fine with, but they forgot to tell me, and I found out because the administrator emailed me an invite to a coffee meeting with my new boss before I found out that I had a new boss and my role was being stripped down. 2, I was told to go to a certain summer camp even though I thought another one would be better, cheaper, and more beneficial. Summer camp, as we all know, is a really big deal, and I was forced to go to one I didn't want to. 3, some people in our church run a separate summer program for teenagers, not affected or connected to the church, during the same week as our summer camp. And despite the senior pastor saying he wants us to go to this certain camp, which he's told us to go to, the other camp won't be promoted. He himself promotes the other camp from the pulpit. Again, I don't want to be the guy who runs, but at what point does someone stop taking the abuse, the lack ability to make decisions on big things, the poor communication that only makes you feel like the bad guy? What's the difference between staying faithful in the tough times or getting away from, in my opinion, poor leadership that will only leave you hurt? Sorry for the sob story, but looking forward to insight and encouragement. A frustrated youth worker.
Oh, that's great.
Ugh.
Great question. Feel the pain in that one too. Dents and dings.
Yeah.
Ouch.
And we know someone going through something similar to that. Yeah.
Well, here's what I would say. Be slow to leave. Be slow to run. Because problems are a part of our ministry. Problems are a part of our calling, what we do. So be slow to run. And kind of loosely related to this, meekness and humility have to be a part of every youth worker's character qualities. Have to be. Meekness says, okay, the church has made a decision and I'm gonna roll with this. And humility says, oh, that was my position, that was my authority, that was my call to make, and I don't get to make those anymore. So I think a combination of those attitudes will serve you well. I realize I'm not giving a definite answer. You wait 3 weeks and then you quit. But I think if you are slow to leave and you are meek and humble, those will serve you well as you investigate and process when it is time for you to go.
And wouldn't you say that all 5 of us, Hillary, I don't know as much about you correct me if I'm wrong, but I would say at least 4 of the 5 of us have been severely wounded before at churches that we've worked at.
Oh, I think it's part of the gig. If you're going to work at a church, you're going to get hurt. You're going to be undermined. You're going to be sabotaged. I'm just going to speak very plainly. Our church, all churches, are broken. And you are broken too. It's just easier to see it in other people. So just know that when you sign up to be in youth ministry, you are going to get hurt and wounded. You're going to have some scars and some dings and dents and hopefully be led by God's Spirit.
It's not just youth ministry. I would say Allison was hurt in other positions.
Without a doubt. And I know that's called life too. Like we're all going to get hurt in this life. But I think, boy, if you are not well aware that the church is filled with broken people and the broken people will hurt you, then you're in for a real rude awakening when that all happens.
Yeah. Can you guys look back to your hurt situations, and can you, at least by now, I could see what God was doing, and I praise him for that whole season.
Yeah.
Like it took me a long time to get there for mine, but boy, do I see that now. I see it so clearly. I didn't see it for years. And after all that time, like you see what he brings you through and how he builds your faith and your heart through those times. And then you look back and you say, oh my goodness, the Lord was carrying me the whole way. And he was building me to be the leader I need to be now for this season now, and to maybe even do an opposite. We learn so much from opposites sometimes. Yes. Like, oh, I'll never do that if I lead a church. And now so much of...
And now, dude, you're leading a church.
Yeah.
And if you're that person, then you didn't learn anything.
Right.
That's crazy.
And I'm able to, my leadership's able to grow in that in a lot of ways. So
yeah.
Well, there's no such thing as a perfect leader.
No.
And so you're always going to work under somebody who is not a perfect leader. But the question becomes, I think, can you, at what point do you become codependent? At what point do you become so passive that you're abused? I mean, at some point you got to go, look, either I have to try to change and have upward influence and change the leadership, or I just need to find new leadership to follow. It's really difficult to follow bad leadership.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. It is.
Yeah. I would say he used the word abuse. So
that's pretty strong.
I would say in that situation, it's definitely worth taking a really good look at what's happening. Attempt to to lead up if possible, and prayerfully consider what that means. And then if that's not happening and abuse is continuing to happen, then it'd be a consideration.
Yeah, I feel like related to that, if this is a one-time thing where it happens and you're like, ooh, this is,
like
I'm going to make a note of this, that stung. But if it is a habitual, cultural, continual thing, totally different game. Yeah.
Yeah, and isn't it amazing? There's probably a ton of people that can relate to this one, and people out there. I would just say as an encouragement to them, as a youth pastor, we have like this secondary. Nobody sees a lot of the crap we have to go through. Nobody sees behind the doors and office hours all week. Sometimes our whole youth ministry, the flock that God's given us to shepherd, they only see us on those Wednesdays and Sundays, and don't ever lose sight of that. Don't lose sight. The flock that God's given you, you're still doing ministry to them. And I would bet almost anything that this youth pastor right here is ministering to these kids in amazing ways every week, that God's using him more than he will ever know, that there's going to be stories 10, 20, 30 years from now. Kids will come up to this guy and say, I remember when you were, and they have no idea about all this garbage going on. Yeah. And so if you can keep your eyes on that in the midst of the fire season that he's walking through, to understand like, hey, God's using me, and nothing is in vain. The word of God isn't in vain. My ministry is not in vain. My faith isn't in vain. Like this is all part of me growing.
Do you love it when Jason gets just a little bit fired up?
Hey,
Just a little pastoral, but with that little
Definitely.
edge. I want to
you can
follow
see
you,
his
Jason.
his assembly of God comes out.
Oh, yeah.
Little
I know.
charismatic.
No, this
Prosperity
one
gospel
hits
coming
a
out.
little close to home for me. It does.
No, I get it.
And yeah, I know someone going through something very similar as this, and man, my heart just goes out huge. I don't ever want that person to be ripped off by the enemy. He might be getting ripped off by the boss, but he shouldn't be getting ripped off by the enemy. He should remember his values in the Lord, and God's using him.
Absolutely.
Well, and what a great opportunity for a leader at this level to change from his or her level down the culture. Like, you can't change what's above you. It's passive aggressive. It's hurtful.
Yeah.
It's poor communication. It's broken. You do have a chance to kind of change that beneath you. So make sure that your volunteers or interns or maybe even a staff member or coworker or whatever, they are not experiencing those same things. So you can shelter them from some of that dysfunction. You can also create a really great environment for them to work in based on what you're not getting yourself. Maybe figure that out and pour that into your people.
Yeah, being able to pay attention to that too.
Yeah.
And then, because chances are, I think a lot of times we reflect our leadership in ways that we probably don't know.
Yeah.
So if there's some things that are happening, it's a good chance to check your own leadership and go, am I
yeah.
doing the same things to people who
Word.
I'm leading right now? Because that's tough.
Yeah. I don't like that. Though
And
you just said that.
I know.
A strong challenge that is going to be unbelievably hypocritical for myself. But a strong challenge in these moments is don't poison your team.
Yeah.
Because, that is the natural tendency every time is to share with your inner team. Can you believe they did this, and this? Next thing you know, you got a war in the church. So somehow navigate that, find your safe people. And wow.
Yeah, I think there is I think there's a time when the leadership is not going to change. It's not good for you. It's not good for your spirit. You've prayed it. You've sought all the biblical wisdom, Jason, that you just said. You've lived that out. It's not making them. It's just time to go. This isn't good leadership here, because there are other churches that have great leadership that care for people. I mean, I'm in a situation right now where, I've got a buddy who could stay at the church that he's at right now, and it's a little bit of an abusive cultural environment, and he doesn't want to leave, but he's being courted by another church that I know very well. We all know it, and it's in Seattle, and the leadership is healthy and they're fun and and it seems like half of our friends are moving up to go to that church and work at that church because it's so healthy. But go, hey, it may be the best thing, even though you want this job, and even though this might be the job that you think you've always been wanting. The culture is just not going to change at this point. And there are other cultures that, that might be the right time for you to thrive. So,
One quick note, as I went through my super painful season in the church and it became clear that it was coming to an end, there is a group of podcast episodes in the Allender Center podcast that talk about ending well. When is it time to leave? What kinds of questions to ask? How do you leave well for yourself, for the people you were leading, for the people you had surrounded yourself with at the time? So this might help.
the Allender Center?
Allender, Allender. Yeah, Dan Allender.
Great. Very cool.
That's awesome. Yeah, I think that's a great point. If you're going to leave, you got to leave well. So some good insight there.
Okay, Allison, you take this question.
Oh gosh,
You
that
ready?
makes me nervous.
Yes.
Oh, I can't wait. I
know.
Wait, what is it going to
Please
be?
be about calendars or television.
This is from
Coded something.
Joey Nilsson, and he's got a question about a kid in his youth group with gender confusion.
Oh gosh, gender confusion's not funny, but I did say I don't want to answer questions about that. That's why I'm laughing.
No
I
laughing
didn't
about
hear her say
gender
that
confusion.
before.
A little insensitive there, Allison.
Yeah, I can't believe you laughed.
Outburst of
I just
laughter.
processed through this with my small group girl. I definitely can.
Joey Nilsson says this: I have started watching the web shows that begin this summer. They're amazing resource. I'm an intern in my home church in Colorado Springs. 2 years ago, I signed up to be a middle school guys small group leader. It was is the coolest thing I've ever been a part of. We met in a basement every Wednesday night. Most of the students that started coming had very little prior involvement with the church. This past year, I started going to college for youth ministry in Omaha. The guys from my small group did not have a small group leader for the school year. I got back and started meeting with them this summer, and it was evident this past year was difficult for them. The student pastors decided to do small groups again, and the guys from my small group will now have a different leader because he's obviously going to be away at school.
Oh, yeah.
What would you recommend for continuing these relationships and communication?
Oh, yeah.
Wow. That's that is the situation that I encountered as I moved away the fall semester of my high school girls' senior year. I was their small group leader for 3 years and then left for 6 months and had to wrestle through, how do I let these girls attach to a new leader while also maintaining some sort of relationship with them? And I found it to be best to first talk to this other leader and say, we're in this together. It's not a me versus you thing. We love these students. We believe that God is writing a story in their lives. And so we together get to be part of these girls' stories. And telling the girls the same thing. Then once we were on the same page, we went to the girls and said, we love you. How great that you have not one, but two caring adults in your life who will be with you, be present for you. And so I would say, I would encourage you. I missed his name. Sorry. I was so nervous. My hands got really sweaty. Joey. Keep those relationships going. If this is still, if Colorado Springs is still your home and you'll come back from Omaha, be part of those lives, the lives of those students, and do everything you can to encourage and support them to be part of their youth group, to attend that small group with that new leader.
Is it okay to like check in, text, or
Never.
Instagram?
It is
or any of
only
that?
once when you're there. No, ongoing. I think cell phones work in Omaha, right?
I'm pretty sure it's like my Iowa.
I think so.
Yeah.
Send texts, send, emails, as long as it's very clear that there is a partnership between the leaders and it is not a you like me or you like this new person. I think, the more caring adults, the better.
That's great.
I totally agree. The second that you receive your small group, consider other caring adults that you can introduce into their lives, because you are not the end stop. Yeah. So him doing this and connecting, that's so good, Allison. That's so good.
Strong.
Just to go and always having that leader's back. So if there's ever a situation where one of them texts you and goes, this leader's doing this, how ridiculous. It's like, man, you know what though? It sounds like they love you. And then connect with the leader and go, hey, what's going on? Or whatever. But never be their last stop.
Yeah.
Come on.
This is my fire.
This is why we're together on a mic. We'll just high five each other.
Together.
I'll follow Hillary anywhere.
Small group leaders. I love our small group leaders. I love
All
them.
right, Allison, you got this one
Elliot's
again.
Elliot's a small group
I
leader.
don't want any more. My hands are very sweaty. It's making me so nervous.
This is from Stetson.
Ooh, Stetson.
And Stetson, I have kids in my group who want to know, when their animals die, will they go to heaven?
I had a girl. You saving me? That's not what it says. I had a girl in my junior high small group whose family refused to bury their pets, and instead they just put them in the freezer in the garage. And so when you opened the freezer in the garage to get our small group snacks, there were birds, rabbits.
Was that the Fodagatis?
fish. Yes.
Yeah.
Wait, this is
It's a real thing.
Yeah.
Yeah. Garage
Gross.
freezer full of dead animals.
You know what my answer to that is when kids would ask? If I like the kid, I go, yeah, they'll be in heaven.
My little brother asked our pastor this, and the pastor just goes, no. And that was it. Oh. He's like, my dog just died. Did he go to heaven? And the pastor's like, no. And that was it.
Only lions and lambs will be in heaven. That's all we know.
Did you have a pet lion or a pet lamb?
Bulls?
Yeah. Isn't there a bull that's covered in eyes?
Oh.
Do you know what I'm talking about? Do you want this popsicle?
Yes, I do.
Hey, there's a red one, guys.
Okay, here we go.
Admin.
Allison, here you
TV
go.
shows. Here we go.
I'm in my second year of youth ministry. Just moved to Washington to work with a church plant as their youth and children's pastor. They have been a church for 27 years. But do we still call that a church plant?
Yeah. No, it's a church.
Well, maybe it's a church plant
It's now a
but
church.
Maybe.
It was once a church plant.
Okay, keep going.
Yeah, but they really struggled to grow. They hired me because they haven't had a strong focus and direction toward their youth and children's ministry. That's why they've identified as why they're not growing. They're incredibly unorganized. My first week was the week before middle school camp, and they had not signed any kids up. I basically had to scramble to call parents and a huge list of potential kids. We got 2 students to go, but it was incredibly stressful. I was also unable to go to camp with the kids because they had not signed up any kids up for CIY, which is Christ in Youth camps, the whole bit. It's going to be taken over by YM360, but we're not supposed to talk about that.
Oh, gosh.
And the deadline for that event was the following week. I'm a practical person who sets practical goals, but the senior minister likes to set huge goals that are not practical to reach based on the current state of the church. We have about 5 kids that attend Sunday school, about 3 kids that attend youth group, and he wants 40 by September. I'm really worried that by not setting practical goals and making a priority to organize, that it's going to set myself up as a failure for a leader. Is there any advice you can offer me? It's been a very rough first 3 weeks. Stenson. P.S. Jason, in high school, my first youth group went to an Orange County Supertones farewell tour.
Oh, fun. Woo.
Wait, you're saying goodbye? Farewell tour?
It was the end of the band at the point.
Yeah.
We've done a reunion since then. Thanks for noticing, Josh.
Well, I was going to say, it'd be really fun to have
We
you
could
guys
keep
back
up.
What was
together.
that?
Back together
What was
sometime
that
soon.
tour?
That'd be cool.
When was that? When was your farewell tour?
2005. I was out of the band by then.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. But the band was
So it sucked.
officially ending at 2005.
Because you were the heart and soul of that thing. You started it. Yeah, you preached at it.
No,
That's
it was
why
the
it
Lord's,
ended.
Doug.
No.
25%, and the rest was
Yeah, you give about 25%,
He gave
God does the rest.
Yeah.
I like it.
False humility is perfect. It's the Lord's dog.
You guys should get back together again soon.
All right.
Cool.
So what do you think? What do you think, Allison? You don't have to answer it, but
Thank you.
Well, I was teasing. You're welcome.
take the first crack.
Why don't you guys I'll speak to the organizational side of things, and you guys speak to the heart. So you go first.
All right.
Is that a binocular? What's happening?
If you're
For those of you who can't see,
It's
Doug
eye
is
candy.
looking straight into his microphone, like balancing his face.
like touching
on-
it with his eyeball.
It's
It's
strange.
really just for those that watch the show that really get the benefit of this.
You might be able to hear your eyeball.
appraising something down there.
I was actually
He's a jeweler.
I was looking for Scotland.
What?
It doesn't mean anything. His last show.
It's his pirate.
I think the senior pastor's insane. I'm old enough to say that. You guys can't say that, but old people because what are they gonna say? When you're as old as me,
Yeah.
and you say statements like that, people go, "He's just old and angry."
He's just an old guy.
Makes for a great
An
senior
old
pastor.
guy.
Yeah.
Those are the 2
No,
qualifications.
come on, because look, you've got a church that there is nothing at the
Yes.
church, no numbers. You hire a new person to do children's and students, so you've already given them probably a bigger job than they're probably capable. Any of us are capable of.
Very true.
And you have 5 kids, and you want 40 within a month. It's just not realistic, especially if there's no structure, there's no organization. Now, can Jesus move and there be 1,000 kids? Absolutely. Okay, but there is a you do the possible, which I think is some organization, some structure, some leadership. We pray that God does the impossible, and that's the life change, the growth, both spiritual and numerical, if that's his desire. But I think that's an unrealistic expectation. So yes, you are being set up for failure.
Yeah.
And so those are the questions you need to ask before you say yes to a job.
Too late.
Yeah. But that we all kind of learn that after saying
sure
yes
do.
to a job. We go, oh, there's 6 questions I should have asked. Which, if you want some questions, if you're going to, the book, Your First 2 Years of Youth Ministry, there are some questions in the book that you need to ask before you say yes to a job.
Well, Field, something you said for a long time, too. 3 words that I've held on to every single time is
You
this.
are hot.
Hey, thank you. Yes. 3 other words.
Oh, okay.
Health takes time.
Yeah.
And I remember you saying that at a conference literally 15, 20 years ago, whatever. And I was just like, oh, my goodness, that is the message that my leadership does not get. They want me to turn this thing overnight. They want me to have 50 kids here by next week. And I'm starting with 3, and 2 of them I don't even like, and no volunteer. Health is going to take time. And so I think presenting that message to the leadership, to the elders, to the deacons, even to your team, it's going to take some time to rebuild this thing. So
That's good.
yeah, it's a big one. Organizationally, what would you do?
That's what I was going to say. I think having worked with a lot of visionaries in my years of youth ministry, it's helpful for me to be able to say, here's your 10,000 foot view, and here's where I think it breaks down into a yearly goal, a monthly goal, a weekly task list. And
you're not even saying numbers necessarily,
nope,
right?
But I think it's just really putting a little bit of intentionality and strategy behind this lofty goal that has been set by the senior pastor, and making it a little bit more of a, here's what I can do in the next 7 days. Here's what I can do in the next month. And then here's how that will gradually get us to that health that he's asking for.
Yeah. Could the senior pastor be just trying to light a fire and give
motivational.
give some vision to this new youth worker and say, wouldn't it be cool? I mean, I know it wasn't written that way, and it's probably not that glamorous.
Yeah.
But what could be?
Sometimes a disconnected leader can say things just dreaming and going big to try and kickstart their other leaders under them to get there.
Yeah, but come on, you're a
40.
senior pastor. Who's doing that to you?
Yeah.
No.
Yeah, let me say
Yeah.
that to this.
Should-
Yeah, so the senior
should be,
pastor,
but-
let's say the senior pastor is running 200. Okay, by September you should be at 300.
Right.
You know, I mean,
Not fair.
and that, well, not even fair. So you're looking at 6 times. So really, if you got 5 kids and you want to be at 40, that's 6 times.
8 times.
Is it 8? Sorry.
That's 7.8 times, but who's counting?
Yeah. The things I would have learned on the farewell tour.
Oh my gosh.
You're relational.
Yeah, that's right. Thank you. So you go,
got
okay,
people
if
to
the
do your
church is
math for
running
you.
200 and you got to 8 times that, so it's like saying 1600
by
by
summer.
Come on,
Yeah.
pastor, don't be a knucklehead. You
That's
know,
rough.
set your leader up to win. You hired him
Yeah.
to win. He's excited to be there. When he was in youth group, he went to the farewell tour, so he's obviously well equipped to lead.
Oh my gosh.
So, yeah, I don't know. Stuff like that ticks me off.
Yeah.
But I'm just old and angry.
I was going to say, you make a great senior pastor.
Yeah.
I hear Jason's church is looking. He might not know that yet. It's true.
I'm sorry it's been a
Jason.
rough 3 weeks.
Oh, no
Yeah.
doubt.
But I would say, now by the time we're answering it, and it goes, it's going to be a rough 2 months by the time this show is posted and he's hearing that, it's time for a review.
Yeah.
Just say, and I want a 60-day review. I'd like to talk to you about some of the expectations that you've got of me that I don't think are realistic.
Yeah, now that I'm determined to be an utter failure because I haven't reached your 40.
Yeah.
Yeah.
2 kids at camp is rad, though. Way to go.
Yeah.
Yeah,
You gotta
absolutely.
have a healthy
Good
place
hustle.
to
Yeah,
bring
way
us
to
back
get on the
to.
phone and call and
Yeah.
work.
Yeah.
And not just, that's work. Okay, this is from Ryan. We'll just go Ryan
Lots
in
of Ys
general.
in that name.
Yeah, because I'm looking at it. Please don't read my name. But I am a lead youth worker in, just pick a state.
Iowa.
Iowa.
For sure.
I almost said Detroit.
Absolutely.
Not a state.
I was gonna say Michigan
Iowa
too.
show.
So yes, I was gonna say Michigan also.
He says, I'm about to walk into a meeting with my pastor and a youth volunteer that I had asked this youth volunteer to take a step back in working with our youth, which was a decision that was backed up by our pastor. The problem is that this volunteer said in our meeting that I told him, quote, I don't want to be a dick, but you can't be a youth leader, unquote. Now, this did not happen at all, but it is my word against his, and I'm concerned that this will lead to a really tough time in our group and cause bitter feelings among those involved. Is there any way that I can avoid this in the future? And is there a way to handle situations like these so that everyone comes out relatively happy?
Okay, I had a situation like this before.
Oh.
I had to, because I knew anytime that I'm having a conversation like that where I'm asking somebody to step back from leadership, I bring one other person in the conversation with me so that no one can say, oh, she said this. And then the fallout was that people on the team were like, why did you do that? I don't understand. So I just had to have, you don't want to expose what happened. So you don't want to give the details and go, well, because this and this and this, because that's also very toxic. But part of it was having the relationship with the rest of the team members for them to go, okay, I don't know why she made this decision, but it was probably for the best. So making sure that you're always building relationships with the rest I mean, with your team all the time, but also anytime that you're going to ask someone to take a step back from your team or have like a really tough conversation, I would say invite someone else in on the conversation to go.
Yep.
And then
somebody
even
that's been around for a while, somebody that's proven, somebody that's loyal, somebody that's faithful, somebody that'll have your back. You're not just inviting anybody into that. You're inviting
and
somebody
even in the meeting going, hey, I asked this person to join us just so that like I can make sure that everything is communicated. This is because usually they know if you're bringing them in for a one-on-one, like if this gets emotional, I want to make sure both of us can hear the other person. So I asked this person to be here. So, but
and Hillary, don't you think too it will keep you in check?
Yes, totally. Then afterwards, I've got to say to that person, do you feel like I communicated well? And actually, they gave me feedback where it was like, this part was kind of rough, and it was like, okay, good to know. And then. But it was one of the worst things I've ever had to do. Yeah. It was so hard. It was such a hard conversation. So I'm sorry that happened.
We tried to have that with Allison yesterday at lunch.
And then I invited
Who did you bring?
because I got nervous.
Yeah.
This is going to be awkward.
This could be a confrontation. You come to lunch.
You brought your own person.
Yeah.
Well,
That's
in this case of basically, someone's lying about your character now, too, saying you use profanity, the whole bit. Is there any way to salvage this? I mean, this could cost, in some church contexts, this could cost them their job.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, what do you do here?
In the ideal world, right, your reputation should stand for itself. And I know this isn't perfect, and yes, it could cost you a job. What I'm saying is, like, if you have a reputation where, gosh, no one's ever heard you talk like that, no one's ever heard you say that word, and it's your word against his, that might not go very far. I mean, I always use that joke. I mean, I struggle with a million things. One thing I never struggled with was drinking. I just have never drank. And I don't think I'm better than people because of that. I just haven't. I never wanted to do that. So if someone set up a rumor about me that I was drunk, I would laugh. I wouldn't be offended. There would be no offense given whatsoever. It would be like, Jason was drunk. Yeah, it's a good one.
Yeah.
Like, I wouldn't be like, how dare you say that about me? So if you have that reputation and your faithfulness precedes you, I wouldn't sweat it. I would go to that, especially if you know that senior pastor and the senior pastor knows you, and you're going into a meeting with them. You can look them in the eyes and say, "Hey, pastor, I just want you to know this accusation's coming against me, and I gotta just tell you straight up, man to man, eye to eye. Those words did not come out of my mouth, nor would they, nor will they." And just an encouragement to him too. This is what Christ faced all the time, wrongful accusations.
What if it was true? What would you do? Just so I can be prepared in the future.
Hopefully you own it.
Yep.
Just in case I say something I soon later regret.
Yeah.
I think you own it, you apologize, and
Absolutely.
I mean, honestly.
If you lie about something, you got other
There
issues.
is always room for the truth.
Yeah.
I'm glad his
That's a good
pastor
point.
has his back too. That's good. Didn't he say that?
Yeah, I don't know if
It feels better if he does. Let's say that he does.
He said he's walking into the meeting right now, but the
Doug?
pastor had supported the original decision.
Oh, right. That's right. That's right.
Well, I think it's always, his line is, can you do something where we always come out where everybody's relatively happy?
No.
No.
I don't
it
think that's
go.
reality. Here's the deal about leadership. Leadership is just difficult. And being a leader, you're going to tick people off. Being a leader, especially if you're heading in the right direction, doing the right thing, not everybody wants to head in the direction, do the right thing. And then you have to have those difficult conversations. You feel insecure. It brings up your own brokenness and your own wounding and your fear of whatever it might be. It pushes a trigger. You get amped up. Leadership is just not, if you want to be happy, don't be a leader. Be a senior pastor.
And that's our show.
Right?
Yeah.
Okay, let me ask you
the
this.
easiest.
You've had a church for a year and a half.
Yeah.
Okay?
Yeah.
In a year and a half, just take a year and a half of starting being a church planter, senior pastor, and a year and a half kind of in the heart of your youth ministry days. And we've said many times on the show, you're an amazing youth worker. Yeah. You did ministry in our neighborhood. Our kids were part of your youth group. You're down the street from Saddleback, the whole bit. So a year and a half senior pastor, a year and a half youth worker. Where's the most conflict?
I could say it both ways. Different seasons.
Okay.
But yeah, youth ministry is messy all the time, right?
Yeah.
For sure.
Yeah.
But boy, way uglier. It's the intensity. The intensity as a senior pastor is way rougher. The consistency and the frequency is rougher in youth ministry.
That's an interesting.
Okay,
I think.
that's good.
Yeah,
I like that.
because I mean,
I don't like that. I
Yeah,
just like that.
I thought I
phrase.
heard about everything that happens in youth ministry, and then when I became senior pastor, I'm like, oh my gosh, you hear about more stuff than you care to hear about, and on every level,
Yeah,
you hear it all.
yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, no, thank you.
Seriously.
That's awesome.
But you love it.
I do.
You love it.
to
You're
it.
called.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You're called. You finish your
Could've-
message on Monday.
That's right.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Most of the time.
Yeah.
If I'm on a good week.
that's great.
Yeah.
And you love people. You've proven that.
Yeah.
That's part of your character.
Yeah.
That's funny.
That's great.
Yeah,
You
been
quit the
drinking a
band
lot
early.
lately.
But other than that,
Using a lot of foul language.
Hey,
Drinking all the time.
Drinking all the time.
here's the deal. This is a wrap of the 200s, is what we like to say.
my goodness.
Cheers on the bot
God.
mugs to $2.99.
Hey, no, keep that in there.
Okay.
Sorry.
Hey, listen, raise them up.
You raise me up.
You raise me up.
I can walk.
Josh.
How dare you? Oh, no.
Oh gosh.
How dare you?
Oh my God.
Oh guys.
That
We've totally lost control. Look at, don't end it like that. You gotta, yeah, you did. That was your marker.
He's worried
to
about
end
his
it.
lens.
No, he was ending it. You gotta keep it going for live stuff.
All right. Stays in.
Are we done?
you got that.
I think we're done.
All right.
Makes me so
Yeah, we're done.
Don't.
Josh.
We're gonna get in so much trouble
Dude,
if you
this
break
is
this
like a little
table.
marker.
I know.
Sorry, leased
Elliot
table.
did
All
it.
right.
In all seriousness, hey, to Doug Fields and Josh Griffin, 300 shows.
300.
No, $2.99. $2.99 to Doug Fields and
Dude,
Josh
Doug.
Griffin.
Thank you. Cheers.
Where's your mug, Josh?
Congratulations.
Where's mine? Give me my Rabat mug back.
Did you get hit by some
Unbelievable.
glass? Oh gosh.
That could hurt me.
It's been a good run. Cheers.
Guys, what a special day. What a special
Mug.
day.
All right,
This
show's
may,
over.
this may be the first time I ever watch a show.
Just to get to the ending.
Yeah, I want to see the end of this.
Yeah, me too.
We're
Worth it.
Okay.
brought to you by APU.
Yeah, let's
Yes.
go.
Oh
Josh.
And
no.
Rabat.
See you later. Show's over.
You were so a youth worker.
He's still going. He's still going.
It's like indestructible.
Give him some matches.
Robot.
Something else to do.
Don't
Shabbat.
do not.
Robot. You raise me up.
Hillary just went into labor.
Seriously.
My kid's
Get
like,
me out of
what
here."
is going on out there?
That is a tight. Look at that. The chair doesn't even fit. How did I fit in there?
Show's over, folks. You see you at 300.
Gosh.
This DYM podcast is brought to you by LeaderTrex. LeaderTrex is a youth worker's best friend. We want to support, encourage, and love on you, and we want to make your life easier when it comes to discipleship and leadership development. We know you're busy serving students, so we're here to serve you. And since we love DYM, members always get 10% off by using the code DYM10 at leadertrex.org.